In a luxury hotel, a lonely and feared millionaire weeps in silence with no one daring to approach. Everything changes when a humble girl, the daughter of a maid, wipes away his tears without saying a word. That pure gesture pierces through years of coldness and isolation, awakening something dormant inside him. Little did he know that this encounter would transform his destiny and teach him the true meaning of belonging. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The golden light of a San Francisco sunset filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Fairmont Hotel's grand lobby, casting long shadows across the marble floor. Among the hustle and bustle of tourists and business travelers, a solitary figure sat motionless on a plush velvet sofa beneath a crystal chandelier. Despite being surrounded by people, 35-year-old Nathan Reed might as well have been alone on a deserted island. His tailored Tom Ford suit couldn't hide the slight tremor in his hands as he stared at the email on his phone for the 20th time that day. The words, "Stage 4 pancreatic carcinoma" and 3 months life expectancy seemed to float off the screen, haunting him. 3 hours earlier, he had closed a $500 million deal that would cement Cybervision Technologies as the leading AI security company in America. The deal should have been the crowning achievement of his career. Instead, it felt hollow, a meaningless victory in a war he was about to lose. Nathan had built his empire from nothing. Raised in a middle-class family in Ohio, he had clawed his way to the top through brilliance, ruthlessness, and an unyielding work ethic. At 35, he had amassed a fortune worth billions, owned properties in 5 countries, and was regularly featured in Forbes and Fortune. Yet as he sat in that opulent lobby with death's shadow creeping over him, none of it seemed to matter. A single tear escaped before he could catch it, then another. He quickly wiped them away, horrified at this display of weakness. Nathan Reed didn't cry. He hadn't cried when his last relationship ended, when competitors tried to destroy him, or even when his parents passed away 5 years ago. He had built walls so high and thick around his emotions that most people in Silicon Valley referred to him as the Ice King. Around him, hotel guests and staff moved with practiced indifference. Several recognized the tech mogul, but maintained their distance. Nathan Reed's unapproachable reputation preceded him everywhere. His cold demeanor and cutting remarks in boardrooms were legendary. No one dared approach him even now, as silent tears betrayed his carefully constructed facade. No one, that is, except for a small girl with curly brown hair and eyes the color of warm honey. Nathan didn't notice her at first, this tiny figure in a simple blue dress approaching him with quiet determination. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, clutching a well-loved stuffed rabbit in one hand and a slightly crumpled tissue in the other. "Are you sad?" The little voice startled him out of his thoughts. Nathan quickly composed himself, prepared to dismiss this intrusion with the same efficiency. He dismissed uninvited opinions in corporate meetings, but something in the child's earnest expression made the practiced coldness die in his throat. "I'm fine," he managed, his voice rougher than intended. The girl tilted her head, studying him with the unfiltered honesty only children possess. "My daddy says it's okay to be sad sometimes, even grown-ups." Before Nathan could respond, she extended her small hand, offering him the tissue. When he didn't immediately take it, she stepped closer and with gentle determination reached up to dab at the wetness on his cheek. The simple gesture of kindness, so unexpected, so unearned, broke something inside Nathan Reed. Something that had been frozen solid for decades began to crack, sending fissures through the elaborate architecture of his self-control. "Lucy, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, sir." A man hurried across the lobby wearing the hotel's maintenance uniform. He had the same warm eyes as the little girl, though his were framed by worry lines and exhaustion. "Lucy, honey, you can't just walk up to people like that," he said, placing a protective hand on the child's shoulder. Then to Nathan, "I apologize for the intrusion, Mr. Reed. She's supposed to stay in the break room while I finish my shift." Nathan was startled that the man knew his name, though he shouldn't have been. His face had been plastered across enough business magazines and tech websites. "It's fine," Nathan said, finding himself uncharacteristically at a loss for words. The little girl, Lucy, was still looking at him with those perceptive eyes, as if she could see right through the billion-dollar armor to the frightened human underneath. "She didn't bother me," Nathan added, surprising himself with the softness in his voice. The man whose name tag read Jack Mitchell seemed equally surprised. "Thank you for understanding. Come on, Lucy, let's let Mr. Reed get back to his business." As Jack gently guided his daughter away, Lucy turned back to Nathan. "I hope you feel better," she said, with the simple sincerity that only children can muster. Nathan watched them disappear around a corner, the tissue still clutched in his hand. In that moment, something shifted inside him, subtle yet seismic. The child's simple act of compassion stood in stark contrast to the calculated interactions that filled his world. No one approached Nathan Reed without wanting something from him: money, connections, power. Yet this little girl had offered comfort with no expectation of return. Later that evening, as Nathan sat alone in his penthouse suite, overlooking the glittering San Francisco Bay, he found himself thinking about Lucy and her father. The genuine concern in the child's eyes haunted him. When was the last time anyone had looked at him that way? When was the last time anyone had seen him as a human being rather than a powerful CEO or a valuable connection? The walls of his luxurious suite suddenly felt suffocating. Everything around him, the designer furniture, the rare art pieces, the $10,000 bottle of scotch on the bar cart, all of it seemed to mock him. What good was any of it now? What good was building an empire that would outlive him by mere months? Nathan picked up his phone, scrolling through hundreds of contacts, business associates, celebrities, politicians, people who would attend his funeral for appearance's sake but wouldn't shed a genuine tear. People who would analyze the power vacuum his passing would create before his body was even cold. He set the phone down and walked to the window. Below, San Francisco continued its bustling dance, unaware and uncaring that one of its most powerful residents had just received a death sentence. The city would go on without him, barely noticing his absence. For the first time in years, Nathan Reed felt the full weight of his isolation, a loneliness that had nothing to do with being physically alone and everything to do with the walls he had meticulously built around himself. Walls that a small child had somehow breached with nothing more than a tissue and simple kindness. He pressed his forehead against the cool glass, watching as his breath created a small circle of fog. In that moment, with the weight of his diagnosis pressing down on him, Nathan made a decision that would alter whatever time he had left. Tomorrow, he would find Lucy and her father again. Finding Jack Mitchell proved easier than Nathan had anticipated. A discreet inquiry with the hotel manager, accompanied by a substantial tip, provided him with the maintenance worker's schedule. Jack would be working the afternoon shift, starting at 2 p.m. Nathan spent the morning in a haze, mechanically responding to emails and taking calls, while his mind repeatedly drifted to the encounter from the previous day. His assistant, Vanessa, noticed something was off but knew better than to comment on her boss's unusual distraction. In 6 years of working for Nathan Reed, she had learned that personal questions were unwelcome. At precisely 1:45 p.m., Nathan entered the Fairmont's lobby, feeling strangely nervous. He had negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but the prospect of approaching a hotel maintenance worker left him uncharacteristically anxious. He spotted Jack almost immediately. The man was checking something on a maintenance panel near the elevator banks, his movements efficient and focused. Nathan approached, clearing his throat. "Mr. Mitchell." Jack turned, his expression shifting from professional neutrality to surprise. "Mr. Reed, can I help you with something?" Nathan suddenly realized he hadn't fully thought this through. What exactly was he doing here? "I wanted to thank you and your daughter for yesterday." Jack's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's very kind of you, sir, but completely unnecessary." An awkward silence stretched between them. Nathan Reed, master of boardroom banter and corporate negotiations, found himself struggling to maintain a simple conversation. "Is your daughter here today?" he finally asked. A flicker of protective wariness crossed Jack's face. "She's at kindergarten. My neighbor picks her up and watches her until my shift ends." Nathan nodded, feeling increasingly out of place in his $3,000 suit, standing in front of a man who probably earned in a month what Nathan spent on a single business dinner. "Look, Mr. Reed," Jack said carefully, "I appreciate you coming by, but I should really get back to work. My supervisor doesn't like us chatting with guests." "Have dinner with me," Nathan blurted out. "You and your daughter, tonight, if you're free." Jack stared at him, clearly caught off guard. Excuse me? Nathan himself was surprised by the invitation, but he pressed on. Dinner, my treat, obviously, as a thank you. Jack's expression hardened slightly. With all due respect, Mr. Reed, we don't need charity. It's not charity, Nathan said quickly. He paused, unused to explaining himself to anyone. How could he tell this man that his 5-year-old daughter had shown him more genuine humanity than he'd experienced in years? How could he explain that with death breathing down his neck, he suddenly craved authentic human connection? I don't have many friends, Nathan said finally, the admission feeling like gravel in his throat. Real ones, I mean. And yesterday your daughter was kind to me at a moment when I needed kindness. I'd like to repay that if you'll let me. Jack studied him for a long moment, as if trying to detect some hidden agenda. Finally, his expression softened slightly. Lucy did ask about you this morning, he admitted. She wanted to know if the sad man was feeling better. Something warm and unfamiliar bloomed in Nathan's chest. What did you tell her? That I didn't know, but I hoped so. Jack glanced at his watch. Look, I get off at 8. There's a diner called Mel's on Geary Street. Nothing fancy, but Lucy loves their chocolate chip pancakes. They serve breakfast all day. Nathan, who typically dined at Michelin-starred restaurants, found himself nodding eagerly. Mel's, 8:15. Jack gave a short nod. I'll ask Lucy if she wants to go, but I can't promise anything. She gets tired in the evenings. Of course, Nathan said. I understand. As Jack returned to work, Nathan walked back through the opulent lobby feeling lighter than he had in days. The crushing weight of his diagnosis was still there, but somehow less immediate. At 8:10 p.m., Nathan's chauffeur pulled up outside Mel's diner. The neon sign buzzed above a classic American diner that looked like it hadn't changed much since the 1950s. Wait here, Nathan told his driver. I'm not sure how long I'll be. Inside, the diner was warm and noisy, filled with the clatter of plates and the hum of conversation. Nathan stood awkwardly by the entrance, feeling conspicuously out of place in his tailored suit. Several patrons glanced his way, perhaps wondering if he'd gotten lost on his way to a more upscale establishment. Mr. Reed. Jack's voice came from a booth near the back. He was still in his work clothes but had changed from his uniform into a simple button-down shirt and jeans. Beside him, Lucy bounced excitedly on the vinyl seat, her stuffed rabbit propped up next to her. You came, the little girl exclaimed as Nathan approached. I did, Nathan replied, sliding into the booth across from them. Thank you for inviting me. Lucy beamed at him. This is Mr. Hopperty, she said, gesturing to her rabbit. He remembers you from yesterday. Nathan solemnly extended his hand toward the stuffed animal. Nice to see you again, Mr. Hopperty. Lucy giggled, delighted by the gesture, while Jack watched their interaction with curious eyes. Lucy insisted we come once I mentioned you might join us, Jack explained. Though I should warn you, she's usually in bed by now, so we can't stay too long. Of course, Nathan said. I appreciate you both making time. A waitress approached, eyebrows rising slightly at Nathan's attire, but maintaining her professional smile. What can I get for you all tonight? Chocolate chip pancakes, please, Lucy said immediately, with extra whipped cream. Jack smiled fondly at his daughter. The same for me, but regular on the whipped cream. And coffee, black. Both turned expectantly to Nathan, who realized he hadn't even looked at the menu. I'll have the same, he said impulsively, with extra whipped cream. Lucy's eyes widened with approval, and Nathan felt an unexpected surge of pleasure at having said the right thing. As the waitress departed, an awkward silence descended on the table. Nathan, who typically controlled conversations with strategic precision, found himself at a loss. Fortunately, Lucy had no such inhibitions. Daddy says you're famous, she announced, studying Nathan with unabashed curiosity. Jack winced slightly. Lucy, remember what we talked about? Some questions are private. It's fine, Nathan assured him, then turned to Lucy. Some people know who I am because of my company. I make computers that help keep other computers safe. Lucy considered this. Like a superhero for computers. A surprised laugh escaped Nathan. Not exactly, more like, I make shields that help protect information. That's important, Lucy declared, with the conviction of a child who had just learned something new. Daddy says information is valuable. Your daddy is right, Nathan said, glancing at Jack with newfound respect. The conversation flowed more easily after that, with Lucy as the natural bridge between the two men. She chatted about kindergarten, her favorite books, and a recent trip to the playground, punctuating her stories with animated gestures that occasionally threatened nearby silverware. Jack spoke less but watched carefully, his initial wariness gradually softening. When their pancakes arrived, stacked high and drowning in whipped cream and chocolate, Lucy squealed with delight. Nathan couldn't remember the last time he'd eaten something so unapologetically indulgent. His personal chef prepared meals based on optimal nutritional value and organic ingredients, with flavor as a secondary consideration. These pancakes, in contrast, existed for no reason other than pure sugary pleasure. "Good, right?" Lucy asked, a whipped cream mustache adorning her upper lip. Nathan nodded, surprised to find himself genuinely enjoying the simple food. "Very good." As they ate, Jack gradually began to open up. He spoke of his job at the hotel, physically demanding but with decent benefits and flexible enough for a single father. He mentioned moving to San Francisco 3 years ago from Portland after his wife's passing, seeking a fresh start. Nathan noted how Jack avoided using the word death, instead saying that Lucy's mother had left them or passed away. He wondered if this careful language was for Lucy's benefit or if Jack himself still struggled with the loss. "What about you, Mr. Reed?" Jack asked finally. "What brings a tech billionaire to have pancakes with us on a Tuesday night?" The question was asked lightly, but Nathan could hear the underlying curiosity, perhaps even suspicion. He considered deflecting, as he would in any business setting, but something about the honest simplicity of this moment pushed him toward truth. "I received some difficult news yesterday," he said carefully, conscious of Lucy's presence. "Medical news?" Jack's expression shifted, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I'm sorry to hear that." "When I'm sick, ice cream helps," Lucy offered earnestly, misunderstanding the nature of Nathan's condition, but offering comfort nonetheless. Nathan smiled at her. "That's good advice, Lucy. Maybe we should order some for dessert." As the evening progressed, Nathan found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years. There were no hidden agendas here, no corporate chess moves to anticipate. Just pancakes and conversation and the infectious laughter of a child who saw the world as fundamentally good. By the time they finished their ice cream, Lucy had insisted they all get sundaes. It was nearly 10 p.m., and the little girl was fighting to keep her eyes open. "We should head home," Jack said, gently wiping chocolate from his daughter's cheek. "It's way past someone's bedtime." Nathan insisted on paying the bill, waving away Jack's protests. Outside the diner, his chauffeur stood attentively beside the gleaming black Bentley. "Can we give you a ride home?" Nathan offered. Jack hesitated, looking from the luxury car to his half-asleep daughter. "That's not necessary." "Please," Nathan said. "It's late, and it would be my pleasure." After a moment's consideration, Jack nodded. "Thank you. That would be helpful." The Mitchell's apartment was located in the Mission District, in a modest but well-maintained building with a faded blue awning. As the Bentley pulled up to the curb, Nathan noticed Jack's slight discomfort. The luxury vehicle looked distinctly out of place among the used sedans and compact cars lining the street. "Thank you for dinner," Jack said, unbuckling a now-sleeping Lucy from the car seat the chauffeur had somehow produced from the trunk. "And for the ride." Nathan nodded, suddenly reluctant to see the evening end. "Thank you for accepting my invitation." Jack shifted Lucy in his arms, her head resting peacefully on his shoulder. "Good night, Mr. Reed." "Nathan," he corrected. "Please call me Nathan." A small smile touched Jack's lips. "Good night, Nathan." As the car pulled away, Nathan watched through the tinted window as Jack carried his daughter into the building. Something tugged at his chest, a strange mixture of envy and longing. Jack Mitchell might lack wealth and status, but he possessed something Nathan had never known: unconditional love. The next morning, Nathan surprised his executive team by announcing he would be working remotely for the foreseeable future. Vanessa, his assistant, nearly dropped her tablet at this unprecedented change. Nathan Reed was notorious for his demanding physical presence in the office, often requiring his top executives to be available at a moment's notice. "Is everything all right, sir?" she ventured, following him to his office. "Perfectly fine," Nathan replied, his tone discouraging further questions. "I'll need you to clear my schedule of non-essential meetings and move everything else to video calls when possible." "And the Beijing acquisition?" Vanessa asked carefully. Nathan paused. The Beijing deal represented months of work and potentially billions in revenue. 2 days ago, it had been the center of his universe. "Have Harrison handle the preliminary negotiations," he said finally. "I'll step in for the closing if necessary." Vanessa nodded, her professional mask hiding her concern. In 6 years, Nathan Reed had never voluntarily stepped back from a major acquisition. That afternoon, Nathan sat in his oncologist's office, listening with clinical detachment as Dr. Levine outlined treatment options. The prognosis remained grim. Aggressive pancreatic cancer at stage 4 offered few paths forward, but there were treatments that might extend his timeline or improve his quality of life. "I recommend we start aggressive chemotherapy immediately," Dr. E. Levine said, her kind eyes contrasting with the harsh reality of her words. "With your overall excellent health, you might respond better than average to treatment." Nathan nodded, his mind elsewhere. "And the side effects?" "Significant," she admitted. "Fatigue, nausea, potential hair loss, compromised immune system. You'll need to adjust your lifestyle considerably." "I'll do whatever's necessary," Nathan said, surprising himself with his resolve. 2 days ago, he might have viewed aggressive treatment as pointless. Why suffer through chemotherapy only to extend a lonely existence by a few months? Now, though, something had shifted. The memory of Lucy's innocent kindness and Jack's quiet dignity had awakened something in him, a desire to fight, to experience more of what he'd been missing. Over the next 2 weeks, Nathan established a new routine. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays were for chemotherapy and recovery at home. Tuesdays and Thursdays, he forced himself into the office for crucial meetings, maintaining the facade of normalcy despite the increasing toll of the treatment. And whenever possible, he found reasons to visit the Fairmont, timing his appearances to coincide with Jack's shifts. These accidental encounters gradually evolved into regular dinners. Twice a week, Nathan would join Jack and Lucy at Mel's Diner or occasionally at a child-friendly restaurant that Lucy wanted to try. Each time, Nathan's chauffeur would drive them home afterward, and each time, Nathan would watch them disappear into their apartment building with that same strange ache in his chest. On a crisp Saturday in October, nearly a month after their first dinner, Nathan received a text message from Jack that made his heart leap unexpectedly. "Lucy's school fair today at Grant Elementary, 1:04 p.m. She asked if you might come. No pressure." Nathan stared at the message, an unfamiliar warmth spreading through him. "She asked for me," he thought with wonder. Out loud, he instructed his driver, "Change of plans, we're going to Grant Elementary School." The school fair was unlike anything in Nathan's experience, a chaotic, colorful celebration sprawling across the playground and athletic fields. Children darted between simple game booths and food stands, their excited voices creating a constant backdrop of joyful noise. Parents chatted in groups, while volunteers managed activities with varying degrees of organization. Nathan felt conspicuously out of place in his casual attire, which, for him, meant designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces. "Nathan, over here." Lucy's voice cut through the noise. She was waving enthusiastically from a face-painting booth, her own cheeks adorned with glittering butterflies. Jack stood beside her, looking more relaxed than Nathan had ever seen him, in a simple flannel shirt and worn jeans. "You came?" Lucy exclaimed as Nathan approached, her delight so genuine it made his chest tighten. "I wouldn't miss it," he replied, surprised to realize he meant it. Jack offered a warm smile. "Glad you could make it. Lucy's been talking about showing you her school all morning." "It's the best school ever," Lucy declared, grabbing Nathan's hand with sticky fingers. "Come on, I want to show you everything." What followed was a whirlwind tour led by an enthusiastic 5-year-old. Lucy dragged Nathan from booth to booth, insisting he try his hand at ring toss. He was terrible. Beanbag throws, marginally better, and the duck pond, where he somehow won a small stuffed penguin that he immediately presented to his delighted guide. Jack followed at a slight distance, watching with quiet amusement as one of America's most powerful CEOs was thoroughly commanded by a kindergartner. At the cakewalk, Lucy insisted both men participate, resulting in Nathan winning a lopsided chocolate cake decorated with excessive sprinkles. "Mrs. Thompson made that one," Lucy informed him proudly. "She's in my dad's cooking class." Nathan raised an eyebrow at Jack, who shrugged with a slightly embarrassed smile. "The community center offers free classes," he explained. "I've been trying to expand my cooking skills beyond mac and cheese and dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets. Daddy makes the best pancakes now," Lucy added loyally. He bought them all hot dogs and lemonade from the PTA booth, submitted to having a wobbly star painted on his cheek at Lucy's insistence, and sat in a too-small chair to watch Lucy's class perform a slightly off-key but enthusiastic rendition of "This Land Is Your Land." By the time they reached the pumpkin decorating station, Nathan had forgotten about his designer clothes, his billion-dollar company, and even briefly his diagnosis, almost as good as Mel's. As the afternoon progressed, Nathan found himself relaxing into the simple pleasures of the school fair. He was simply enjoying the moment, helping Lucy attach pipe cleaners and googly eyes to a small pumpkin while Jack took photos on his phone. "Nathan, get in the picture with Lucy," Jack suggested, gesturing him closer to the decorating table. Nathan hesitated, suddenly self-conscious. "I don't think—" "Please," Lucy asked, looking up at him with those earnest, honey-colored eyes. Nathan couldn't refuse. He crouched beside Lucy, who immediately threw her arm around his shoulders and grinned at the camera. Jack snapped several photos, his expression thoughtful as he reviewed them. "I can send these to you," he offered, "if you'd like." Nathan nodded, surprised by how much he wanted those photos. Tangible evidence of one perfect afternoon. As the fair began winding down, Lucy's energy showed no signs of diminishing. She bounced between the remaining activities, her enthusiasm undiminished despite hours of excitement. "Where does she get the energy?" Nathan marveled, watching as Lucy convinced a teacher to give her one more turn at the balloon pop game. Jack laughed. "I ask myself that every day. Being 5 is like having a superpower." Nathan smiled, though a shadow passed over his face. The chemotherapy was taking its toll, leaving him exhausted after even moderate activity. Today had been the most energetic he'd felt in weeks, but he could feel fatigue creeping in, his body reminding him of its betrayal. Jack noticed the change in his expression. "You okay?" "Just tired," Nathan admitted. "The treatment takes a lot out of me." Jack nodded, his eyes reflecting understanding rather than pity. "Lucy and I usually have pizza and movie night on Saturdays. Nothing fancy, just delivery and Disney on the couch. You're welcome to join us if you'd like, no pressure to stay energetic." The invitation hung in the air between them, simple, genuine, and unexpectedly appealing. Nathan thought of his empty penthouse with its spectacular view and oppressive silence. "I'd like that," he said softly. "Thank you." The Mitchells' apartment was exactly as Nathan had imagined it, small but meticulously clean, furnished with a mixture of practical IKEA pieces and well-loved hand-me-downs. Family photos lined the walls, most featuring Lucy at various ages alongside Jack, though a few included a pretty woman with Lucy's curls and warm smile. Susan, Nathan presumed, Jack's late wife. "It's not much," Jack said, showing Nathan to the living room with its worn but comfortable-looking sofa. "But it's home." "It's perfect," Nathan replied, meaning it. The apartment radiated something his luxurious penthouse lacked: warmth, history, love. Lucy had already changed into pajamas decorated with cartoon dinosaurs and was bouncing excitedly on the sofa. "We're watching Moana. It's my favorite." "Moana it is," Jack confirmed, grabbing his phone. "The usual pizza, Luce?" "Yes, and Nathan needs to try the cheesy breadsticks too." Jack glanced at Nathan. "Any objections to pepperoni and mushroom with a side of extremely cheesy breadsticks?" "Sounds perfect," Nathan said, sinking onto the sofa. Lucy immediately scooted closer, dragging a well-worn quilt across both their laps. "This is the best part of movie night," she informed him seriously. By the time the pizza arrived, Nathan had been thoroughly educated on the plot of Moana, Lucy's favorite characters, and the song she knew by heart. Jack watched from the kitchen doorway, a soft smile playing on his lips, as his daughter performed an enthusiastic, if slightly off-key rendition of "How Far I'll Go." They ate pizza, straight from the box, balancing paper plates on their laps while the movie played. Lucy, positioned between the two men, provided running commentary despite having seen the film countless times. Nathan found himself charmed by her enthusiasm, her ability to find joy in the familiar. Halfway through the movie, Lucy's commentary grew quieter, her body gradually leaning more heavily against Nathan's side. By the time Moana restored the heart of Te Fiti, the little girl was fast asleep. her head resting trustingly against Nathan's arm. "I should probably put her to bed," Jack said softly as the credits rolled. "She'll be out cold until morning now." Nathan nodded, carefully shifting to allow Jack to lift his daughter. He watched as Jack carried Lucy to her bedroom, the tenderness between father and daughter making his throat tight with emotion. When Jack returned, he offered Nathan a beer from the refrigerator. "Nothing fancy, I'm afraid." "Perfect," Nathan said, accepting the bottle, "though I probably shouldn't with the medication I'm on." Jack nodded, setting the beer aside and grabbing a water for each of them instead. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the apartment quiet except for the soft sounds of Lucy's nightlight music, drifting from her partially open door. "Thank you," Nathan said finally, "for today, for including me." Jack studied him thoughtfully. "Lucy adores you. I haven't seen her take to someone so quickly since, well, in a long time." Nathan felt a mixture of pride and humility at those words. "She's an extraordinary child. She takes after her mother," Jack said softly, his eyes drifting to a framed photo on the bookshelf, Susan holding a newborn Lucy, her smile radiant despite the exhaustion evident in her eyes. Susan could make friends with anyone. She never met a stranger, only people she hadn't gotten to know yet. Nathan nodded, understanding blooming. "Lucy has that gift." "She does," Jack agreed. He hesitated, then asked the question Nathan had been expecting. "How bad is it? Your diagnosis, I mean." Nathan appreciated the directness. Since his diagnosis, people either avoided the subject entirely or spoke in euphemisms that danced around the reality. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer," he said simply. "Aggressive, metastasized to the liver. Standard prognosis is 3 to 6 months, though my doctor is pushing experimental treatments that might extend that time frame." Jack absorbed this information, his expression somber but not pitying. "And how are you handling it?" Nathan considered the question, not the polite inquiry but the genuine concern behind it. "Surprisingly well, actually. Better since—" he paused, unsure how to explain the transformation that had begun the moment a little girl offered him a tissue. "Better since meeting you and Lucy," he finished honestly. Jack smiled, though sadness lingered in his eyes. "Lucy has that effect on people. After Susan, well, there were days I couldn't see the point in getting out of bed. But Lucy needed me, so I got up. She made me find joy again even when I thought it was impossible." "She's done the same for me," Nathan admitted. "Before I met her, I was just going through the motions, building wealth for wealth's sake, creating a legacy that suddenly seemed meaningless." They fell silent, both men contemplating the unexpected friendship forming between them. A billionaire tech mogul and a hotel maintenance worker, brought together by the open heart of a 5-year-old girl. "What about family?" Jack asked eventually. "Do you have people supporting you through the treatment?" Nathan shook his head. "My parents are both gone. I have a cousin in Boston, but we're not close. The rest of my support system consists of people on my payroll." He gave a wry smile. "Not exactly the foundation for genuine emotional connection." Jack frowned, clearly troubled by Nathan's isolation. "That's not right. No one should go through something like this alone." "I'm not alone anymore," Nathan said quietly. "Am I?" The simple question hung in the air between them, vulnerable and hopeful. Jack held Nathan's gaze, understanding the significance of what was being asked. "No," he said firmly, "you're not." Over the following weeks, Nathan became a regular fixture in the Mitchell household. Sunday brunches, weeknight dinners, and movie nights gradually transformed from special occasions to comfortable routine. Nathan found himself scheduling business calls around Lucy's kindergarten schedule and timing his hospital appointments to ensure they didn't interfere with their shared activities. The chemotherapy was brutal, leaving Nathan nauseated and exhausted, but he pushed through the worst of it with a determination that impressed even his oncologist. On his better days, he joined Jack and Lucy for outings to the park, the children's museum, or simply grocery shopping, mundane activities that had never been part of his carefully controlled life. On his worst days, when the treatment left him too weak to leave his penthouse, Jack would bring Lucy for brief visits. They would sit quietly beside Nathan's bed, Lucy drawing pictures or reading from her favorite books, while Jack prepared simple, nutritious meals that Nathan could actually keep down. It was during one of these visits, as Nathan drifted in and out of a light doze while Lucy colored beside him, that his phone rang with his assistant's distinctive ringtone. "Nathan Reed," he answered, his voice weaker than he would have liked. "Mr. Reed, I'm sorry to disturb you," Vanessa said, her tone professional but concerned. "Your cousin, Mr. Bradley Reed, is insisting on speaking with you. He's here in the office and refusing to leave until he talks to you directly." Nathan frowned. Bradley, his only living relative, had never shown much interest in their family connection beyond occasional holiday cards and requests for investment tips or business introductions. His sudden appearance at Cybervision's headquarters was unexpected and suspicious. "Put him on," Nathan said, glancing at Lucy, who was still absorbed in her coloring book. "Nathan," Bradley's voice boomed through the speaker, artificially jovial. "Finally decided to take my call, huh? Your assistant is quite the gatekeeper." "What do you want, Bradley?" Nathan asked, too tired for pleasantries. "Can't a cousin check in on family, especially when said family has been AWOL from their company for weeks? People talk, Nathan, and what they're saying is concerning." Nathan's jaw tightened. "My company is performing excellently. The Beijing acquisition is proceeding on schedule, and our stock price is up 15% this quarter." "That's not what I mean, and you know it," Bradley said, his false joviality slipping. "There are rumors about your health, serious rumors. And now I hear you've been spending time with some hotel worker and his kid. What's going on, Nathan?" The dismissive way Bradley referred to Jack and Lucy sent a surge of anger through Nathan. "My personal life is none of your business, Bradley." "It is when you're acting irrationally," Bradley insisted. "Look, whatever's going on, you need family right now. Real family, not some random people looking for a handout. I'm flying out to San Francisco tomorrow. We'll have dinner, talk things through like family should." "That won't be necessary," Nathan said coldly. "I'm perfectly fine." "Nathan, goodbye, Bradley." Nathan ended the call, his hand trembling slightly. Whether from anger or the after effects of chemotherapy, he wasn't sure. "Who was that?" Lucy asked, looking up from her coloring book with curious eyes. "Just someone from work," Nathan replied, forcing a smile. "Nothing important." Jack, who had been preparing tea in the kitchen, appeared in the doorway. His expression made it clear he'd overheard at least part of the conversation. "Everything okay?" he asked quietly. Nathan nodded, though the tightness around his eyes betrayed his discomfort. "My cousin is coming to town. He's concerned about me." "That's good, right? Family checking in." Nathan's laugh held no humor. "Bradley's concern is purely financial. We're not close, never have been." Jack set a cup of ginger tea on the nightstand beside Nathan. "Family is complicated sometimes." "Speaking of family," Nathan said, changing the subject, "you mentioned your father lives in Oakland. Lucy talks about her grandpa often." Jack's expression softened. "Dad moved to Oakland after Susan passed. Wanted to be closer to help with Lucy. He's been incredible. Picks her up from school twice a week. Takes her for weekends sometimes when I need a break. He sounds like a good man, the best," Jack agreed. "Though he can be protective, especially where Lucy is concerned." Nathan nodded, understanding the implied warning. Jack's father would naturally be wary of Nathan's presence in their lives. A billionaire suddenly taking interest in a working-class family would raise anyone's suspicions. "I'd like to meet him someday," Nathan said carefully. "When you think the time is right." Jack studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Dad's coming for dinner on Thursday. You should join us if you're feeling up to it." Thursday arrived with Nathan feeling better than he had in weeks. A new medication was helping control the nausea, and he'd actually managed a full night's sleep, a rarity since beginning treatment. He spent extra time on his appearance, choosing clothes that were casual but not ostentatiously expensive, and arrived at the Mitchells' apartment exactly on time, bearing a small bouquet for Lucy and a bottle of non-alcoholic sparkling cider. Robert Mitchell was exactly as Nathan had imagined him, a sturdy man in his 60s with Jack's steady gaze and practical demeanor. His handshake was firm, his assessment of Nathan open and unapologetic. "So you're the billionaire Lucy won't stop talking about," he said after introductions were made. His tone wasn't hostile, but there was a clear note of protective caution. "Grandpa, be nice," Lucy scolded, already arranging her flowers in a plastic cup. "Nathan is our friend." Robert's expression softened as he looked at his granddaughter. "Just getting acquainted, sweetheart." To Nathan, with a hint of challenge, "Lucy says you make shields for computers." That's a simplification, but essentially correct, Nathan replied, recognizing the gentle interrogation for what it was. Cybervision specializes in AI-driven security protocols. And now you're interested in spending time with a maintenance worker and a 5-year-old. The question was direct, the suspicion undisguised. Dad, Jack warned from the kitchen. Nathan held up a hand. It's a fair question. He met Robert's gaze steadily. The honest answer is that Lucy and Jack have shown me kindness when I needed it most. My life before meeting them was empty, despite all the trappings of success. They've given me something money can't buy. Robert studied him, weighing the sincerity of his words. And what happens when you get bored of playing regular folk, when the novelty wears off? Dad, that's enough, Jack said firmly, placing a casserole dish on the table. Nathan is our guest. Robert held Nathan's gaze for another moment before nodding slightly. Just looking out for my family. As you should, Nathan acknowledged. I'd expect nothing less. Dinner proceeded more smoothly after that initial tension. Robert proved to be a natural storyteller, entertaining them with tales of Jack's childhood misadventures and Lucy's earliest antics. Nathan found himself envying the rich tapestry of shared history this family possessed. The inside jokes, the remembered birthdays, the holiday traditions passed through generations. After dinner, while Jack cleaned up and Lucy showed her grandfather her latest school art projects, Nathan's phone buzzed with a text message from Vanessa. Bradley arrived in SF this afternoon. He's been asking questions at the office about your schedule, trying to find out where you're staying. Thought you should know. Nathan frowned, pocketing his phone before anyone could notice his change in mood. Bradley's sudden interest in his whereabouts was concerning. His cousin had never shown much family loyalty before. His appearance now, when rumors of Nathan's illness were circulating, suggested ulterior motives. Later, as they all sat in the living room with cups of decaf coffee and the remains of a store-bought apple pie, Robert turned the conversation toward more serious matters. Jack tells me you're going through some health challenges, he said, his directness tempered with genuine concern. Nathan nodded. Cancer? Pancreatic, stage 4. Robert winced slightly, but maintained eye contact. Tough diagnosis. My wife, Jack's mother, had breast cancer. Fought it for 7 years before it took her. I'm sorry, Nathan said quietly. Life's fragile, Robert replied. Makes you think about what matters. He glanced meaningfully between Nathan and Jack. And who? The implication wasn't lost on Nathan. Robert was concerned about his son and granddaughter becoming attached to someone with a terminal diagnosis, especially someone from a different world entirely. I understand your concern, Nathan said carefully. Jack and Lucy have become important to me. Very important. I don't want to cause them pain. Yet here you are, Robert observed, not unkindly. Getting closer every day from what I can see. Dad, Jack interjected, this isn't necessary. It is, Robert insisted. Lucy's already lost her mother. She's talking about Nathan non-stop, drawing pictures of the three of you together. This isn't casual anymore, Jack. A heavy silence fell over the room. Nathan felt a mixture of emotions, guilt at the thought of causing Lucy pain, fear of leaving behind yet another relationship unfinished, but also fierce protectiveness toward the little family that had welcomed him. I can't promise what happens with my health, Nathan said finally. The prognosis isn't good, I won't sugarcoat that, but I can promise that I'll be honest with all of you, and that whatever time I have, I want to spend it bringing joy to Lucy and Jack, not pain. Robert held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Fair enough. But understand this. We're not casual people, Mr. Reed. In this family, we don't do halfway relationships. If you're in, be in all the way. In. If you're not sure you can handle that kind of commitment, now's the time to step back. The challenge was clear, the line drawn. Nathan looked from Robert to Jack, whose expression was carefully neutral, though tension showed in the set of his shoulders. In the adjacent room, they could hear Lucy humming to herself as she played with her stuffed animals, blissfully unaware of the adult conversation. I'm in, Nathan said firmly. All the way. Bradley Reed arrived at Nathan's penthouse unannounced the following morning, somehow charming his way past building security with a combination of family credentials and his trademark charisma. When Nathan answered the door, still in his robe and visibly weakened from his latest round of chemotherapy, Bradley's practiced smile faltered. Jesus, Nathan, he said, pushing past him into the apartment. "You look terrible." "Good morning to you too," Nathan replied dryly, closing the door. "To what do I owe this unexpected visit?" Bradley paced the living room, taking in the spectacular view of San Francisco Bay with the casual entitlement of someone who felt he deserved such luxury. "I had to see for myself. The rumors are true, aren't they? You're sick." Nathan sighed, pouring himself a glass of water from the filtered pitcher his private chef had left prepared. "Would you like some coffee, Bradley? Or shall we skip the pleasantries entirely?" "Don't deflect," Bradley said, turning to face him. "This is serious. The board is starting to ask questions. Investors are getting nervous. And now I find you looking like this." He gestured vaguely at Nathan's gaunt frame. Nathan took a slow sip of water, buying himself time. He hadn't planned to confirm his diagnosis to anyone in his business circle yet, especially not to Bradley, whose motives were perpetually suspect. But his cousin's sudden appearance made it clear the rumors were already spreading. "I have cancer," he said finally. "Pancreatic, stage 4. I'm undergoing treatment, but the prognosis is what it is." Bradley's expression cycled rapidly through shock, concern, and, most tellingly, calculation. "Why didn't you tell me? We're family, for God's sake." "Are we?" Nathan countered mildly. "When was the last time we spoke before yesterday?" "Christmas cards and requests for stock tips don't constitute a close family relationship, Bradley." Bradley had the grace to look slightly abashed. "Fair enough, but this changes things." He moved to the kitchen island, leaning forward intently. "You need someone you can trust now, Nathan. Someone who understands the business, who can help manage things while you focus on your health." Nathan almost laughed at the transparency of his cousin's sudden concern. "Harrison is handling day-to-day operations perfectly well. The executive team is solid. They're employees, Nathan, not family, not blood." "And what exactly are you proposing?" Bradley straightened, adjusting his Italian silk tie. "I think I should take a more active role at Cybervision, maybe a special advisory position to start, working directly with you. The board would appreciate having family involved during this uncertain time." Nathan regarded his cousin coolly. "I'll consider it," he lied smoothly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a medical appointment to prepare for." Bradley hesitated, clearly wanting to press his advantage, but recognizing Nathan's dismissal for what it was. "Of course, rest up. We can discuss the details when you're feeling stronger." At the door he paused. "About this maintenance worker and his kid." Nathan's expression hardened instantly. "Don't. I'm just saying people in vulnerable positions can take advantage." "Goodbye, Bradley," Nathan said, his tone leaving no room for further discussion. After Bradley left, Nathan sank onto his sofa, exhaustion washing over him. His cousin's sudden appearance was concerning but not entirely unexpected. The vultures were beginning to circle, sensing weakness. He would need to be strategic about how he handled the coming weeks, both personally and professionally. His phone chimed with a text message from Jack. "Lucy wants to know if you're coming to her school play tomorrow. She's a dancing sunflower, very important role." Despite his fatigue, Nathan smiled. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," he typed back. The elementary school auditorium was packed with parents, grandparents, and siblings, all armed with phones and cameras to capture their children's performances. Nathan sat beside Jack and Robert in the third row, feeling both out of place and strangely content. "She's been practicing her sunflower dance for weeks," Jack whispered as the lights dimmed. "Fair warning, there's a lot of spinning involved." Nathan nodded, touched to be included in this milestone. When Lucy appeared on stage in a bright yellow costume with a green headpiece, her face alight with concentration and joy, he found himself reaching for his phone to capture the moment. Jack noticed and smiled approvingly. After the performance, during which Lucy indeed spun with impressive enthusiasm if not perfect coordination, they waited in the crowded lobby for her to emerge from backstage. Parents nodded politely to Jack, a few giving curious glances toward Nathan, clearly wondering about this unfamiliar addition to the Mitchell family circle. "Jack, good to see you." A woman in her early 30s approached, her smile warm as she embraced Jack briefly. "Lucy was wonderful." "Thanks, Melissa. She's been very excited about it." Jack turned slightly. "This is Nathan, a friend of ours." "Nathan, this is Melissa Chen, Lucy's kindergarten teacher." Nathan extended his hand, noting the slight hesitation in Jack's introduction. Friends seemed inadequate for what they had become to each other, yet any other term would require explanations neither was ready to provide. "A pleasure to meet you, Ms. Chen. Lucy speaks very highly of you." Melissa shook his hand, her eyes curious but professional. "Any friend of the Mitchells is welcome at Grant Elementary. Will you be volunteering for our winter festival next month? We're always looking for extra hands." Before Nathan could respond, Lucy burst from the classroom, still in her sunflower costume, and launched herself at the three men waiting for her. "Did you see me? Did you see my spins?" she demanded, bouncing with excitement. "You were the best sunflower in the history of sunflowers," Nathan told her solemnly, earning a beaming smile. "The very best," Robert agreed, hoisting his granddaughter onto his shoulders. "I think this calls for ice cream." As they made their way toward the exit, Nathan became aware of whispers and glances following them. A man in an expensive suit was not a common sight at Grant Elementary, especially one in the company of the Mitchell family. He realized with sudden clarity that their unusual friendship was becoming public, and public meant vulnerable to scrutiny. His concerns were validated the following morning, when Vanessa forwarded him an email with the subject line, "Query from SF Chronicle." A local reporter was working on a story about Silicon Valley executives and their community involvement, and had heard that Nathan Reed was becoming involved with a local family and public school. Would Mr. Reed be available for comment? Nathan deleted the email without responding. The last thing Jack and Lucy needed was media attention or speculation about their relationship. But the query underscored a growing reality. Their worlds were colliding in ways that would eventually demand explanation. That evening, as Nathan helped Lucy with a simple science project at the kitchen table while Jack prepared dinner, his phone rang with a call from Dr. Levine's office. "Mr. Reed, we've received your latest scan results," the nurse practitioner said when he answered. "Dr. Levine would like to discuss them with you tomorrow if possible." "Is everything okay?" Nathan asked, his voice carefully neutral as he glanced at Lucy, who was happily gluing cotton balls to represent cloud formations. "Dr. Levine prefers to discuss results in person," came the diplomatic response. "Would 10 a.m. work for you?" Nathan confirmed the appointment, a cold knot forming in his stomach. The careful non-answer spoke volumes. The news wasn't good. "Everything okay?" Jack asked quietly when Nathan returned to the table. "Just a follow-up appointment," Nathan replied, forcing a smile for Lucy's benefit. "Nothing to worry about." Later, after Lucy had gone to bed, Nathan and Jack sat on the small balcony of the apartment, sharing the comfortable silence they had developed over the past months. "The doctor called about my scan results," Nathan admitted finally. "They wouldn't tell me over the phone, which usually means—" Jack nodded, understanding the implication. "Do you want me to come with you tomorrow?" The offer touched Nathan deeply. "Don't you have work?" "I can swap shifts. Mark owes me a favor." Nathan hesitated. Having Jack's steady presence would be comforting, but it would also mean crossing another boundary, bringing Jack deeper into the medical reality Nathan had been trying to shield him from. "Yes," he said finally. "I'd appreciate that. If you're sure." Jack reached over, his hand covering Nathan's briefly. "I'm sure." The next morning they sat together in Dr. Levine's office as she explained the scan results with gentle directness. The chemotherapy had temporarily slowed the cancer's progression, but hadn't reversed it. New metastases had appeared in Nathan's lungs. The estimated timeline was now shorter, perhaps 3 months at best. "There are experimental treatments we can consider," Dr. Levine explained. "A clinical trial at UCSF is showing promising results for patients with similar genetic markers to yours. It's aggressive with significant side effects, but it might buy more time." Nathan listened with clinical detachment, asking practical questions about success rates and quality of life implications. Beside him, Jack remained silent but present, his steady presence an anchor in the storm of medical terminology and grim statistics. "I'll need to think about it," Nathan said finally. "Weigh the potential benefits against the costs." Dr. Levine nodded understandingly. "Take a few days, but not too long. With the progression rate we're seeing, time is of the essence." In the car afterward, Nathan stared out the window as San Francisco slid past, its picturesque hills and Victorian facades suddenly seeming like a movie backdrop. Beautiful, but ultimately unreal. "What are you thinking?" Jack asked quietly. Nathan turned to him, struck by the simple directness of the question. No platitudes, no false reassurances, just honest concern. "I'm thinking about time," he said truthfully, "about how to spend whatever I have left. The clinical trial might give me extra months, but at what cost? More days sick, exhausted, in pain?" Jack nodded, letting him work through his thoughts without interruption. "If it were just me, the decision would be simple," Nathan continued. "I'd focus on quality over quantity. But now," he hesitated, "now there's you and Lucy, and the thought of leaving you both sooner than necessary feels like another loss," Jack finished for him, understanding etched in his features. "Nathan, whatever you decide, we're with you. But this has to be your choice, based on what you want, not what you think we need." Nathan looked at him, this man who had somehow become central to his life in a matter of months. "What would you do if it were you?" Jack considered the question carefully. When Susan was sick, she chose aggressive treatment. She fought for every extra day, even when the side effects were brutal. She wanted more time with Lucy, with me. She didn't regret it, even at the end. He paused. "But that was her choice. The right choice for her might not be the right one for you." Nathan nodded, appreciating Jack's honesty. "I need to update my will," he said, the practical reality of his situation reasserting itself. "And there are other legal matters to attend to." "Whatever you need," Jack said simply. The next few days passed in a blur of legal consultations and financial planning. Nathan had always maintained meticulous business affairs, but his personal estate planning had been relatively straightforward before, most assets directed to charity, with nominal bequests to distant relatives. Now, with Jack and Lucy in his life, his priorities had shifted dramatically. His estate attorney, Helena Grayson, raised an eyebrow at the significant changes Nathan proposed, but maintained professional composure as she made notes. "You've known this family for less than 3 months, she observed carefully. "These are substantial provisions you're making for them." "I'm aware of the time frame," Nathan replied calmly. "And your cousin Bradley? These changes will significantly reduce his inheritance." "Bradley will be fine. He has his own resources." Helena nodded, making a final note. "I'll draft the revisions for your review. However, I should note that given your medical condition and these substantial changes benefiting people you've known for a relatively short time, the will could potentially be contested after your passing." Nathan frowned. "On what grounds?" "Undue influence is the most likely claim, especially if your condition deteriorates further." She met his gaze directly. "It might be advisable to include additional documentation, perhaps a video testament explaining your decisions, while you're clearly of sound mind." Nathan understood the implication. People would assume Jack and Lucy were taking advantage of him, a vulnerable, dying billionaire manipulated by a working-class family with financial motives. "Draft everything as discussed," he said firmly, "and schedule time for the video documentation as soon as possible." That evening, as they finished dinner at Nathan's penthouse, a rare change of venue from the Mitchells' apartment, Nathan broached the subject carefully. "I've been updating my legal affairs," he began, watching Jack's expression, "getting everything in order." Jack nodded, his face neutral. "That's good. Practical." "I've made provisions for you and Lucy," Nathan continued, holding up a hand when Jack began to protest. "Please, let me finish. This is important to me." Lucy, who had been coloring at the coffee table, looked up at the shift in tone. "Are you talking about grown-up stuff?" "Yes, sweetheart," Jack confirmed. "Very boring grown-up stuff." "I'm going to keep coloring then," she decided, returning to her artwork with the enviable focus of a child. Nathan lowered his voice slightly. "I want to establish a trust for Lucy's education, and I want to set up a housing fund for you both, enough to buy a proper home in a good neighborhood, with extra for maintenance and property taxes." Jack's expression tightened. "Nathan, we've never asked for—" "I know," Nathan interrupted gently. "That's precisely why I want to do this, because you've never asked for anything except my friendship." He reached across the table, his hand resting lightly on Jack's arm. "Please, Jack, let me do this one thing. Not out of pity or obligation, but because you and Lucy have given me something priceless. A real family, even if just for a little while." Jack was silent for a long moment, his eyes suspiciously bright. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Nathan said simply, "for Lucy's future, if not for yourself." Across the room, Lucy held up her latest masterpiece, a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. "Look, it's us, our family." Both men turned to look at the child's innocent creation, a perfect illustration of what they had become to each other, rendered in waxy primary colors and unconditional love. "Our family," Jack echoed softly, meeting Nathan's gaze with an expression that conveyed everything words couldn't. "Yes." The letter arrived 3 weeks later, a formal, legal-looking envelope addressed to Jack Mitchell, delivered to the apartment while Nathan was there helping Lucy with her reading. Jack opened it, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern as he scanned the contents. "What is it?" Nathan asked, noticing the change. Jack handed him the letter wordlessly. It was from a law firm representing Bradley Reed, expressing grave concerns about the nature of Jack's relationship with Nathan and suggesting that Jack was taking advantage of Nathan's compromised state to secure financial benefits. The letter stopped short of making explicit legal threats, but strongly implied that Bradley was prepared to take action to protect his cousin's interests. "This is ridiculous," Nathan said, anger rising as he read. "Bradley has no standing to interfere in my personal decisions." "Maybe not legally," Jack agreed, keeping his voice low so Lucy wouldn't overhear, "but he can make things difficult, create doubt, raise questions." Nathan's jaw tightened. "I'll handle Bradley." "Nathan," Jack said carefully, "he's not entirely wrong to question this. From the outside, it must look unusual. A billionaire tech CEO suddenly spending all his time with a hotel maintenance worker and his daughter, making changes to his will." "I don't care how it looks," Nathan insisted. "I know the truth." "You know the truth," Jack sighed, retrieving the letter and folding it carefully. "Truth doesn't always matter in situations like this. Perception does." He glanced toward Lucy, who was sounding out words in her picture book, blissfully unaware of the adult's tension. "I don't want her caught in the middle of something ugly." Nathan understood Jack's concern. The last thing any of them needed was media attention or legal battles that would disrupt Lucy's sense of security. But the thought of stepping back, of losing the family he'd found just to appease Bradley's suspicions, was unthinkable. "Let me talk to Bradley first," he said finally. "Clear the air. He's operating on assumptions and rumors. Maybe if he meets you and Lucy, sees what we have." Jack looked skeptical but nodded. "If you think it would help." The meeting was arranged for the following Saturday, a casual lunch at Nathan's penthouse. Bradley arrived punctually, dressed in a manner that managed to be simultaneously casual and ostentatious. Designer jeans, limited edition sneakers, and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than Jack's monthly rent. "Quite a view," he remarked, surveying the panoramic vista of San Francisco Bay. "Though I'm surprised you're still here instead of at the Cybervision Executive Wellness Retreat in Napa. The board specifically purchased that property for situations like yours." "I prefer to be in the city," Nathan replied simply, "closer to my doctors and friends." Bradley's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, your new friends. When will they be joining us?" As if on cue, the elevator announced a new arrival. Jack and Lucy stepped into the penthouse, Lucy immediately running to Nathan with excited chatter about the building's doorman who had given her a lollipop. "Nathan! Mr. Frank downstairs has a dog named Pretzel, and he said maybe I can pet him when we leave if he's back from his walk and—" She broke off, suddenly noticing Bradley's presence. With the adaptability of childhood, she switched focus instantly. "Hello. Are you Nathan's friend too? I'm Lucy." Bradley seemed momentarily thrown by the child's direct approach. "Hello, I'm Bradley Reed, Nathan's cousin." "Like family," Lucy exclaimed, her face lighting up. "Nathan is our family too. He's my extra dad." The innocent declaration hung in the air, its implications rippling through the room. Jack stepped forward quickly, extending his hand to Bradley. "Jack Mitchell, it's good to meet you. Nathan's mentioned you." Bradley shook Jack's hand with visible reluctance. "Has he? Interesting, since he's hardly mentioned you until recently." Nathan intervened before the tension could escalate. "Let's eat, shall we? I've had lunch prepared." The meal was an exercise in strained politeness. Bradley alternated between pointed questions about Jack's background and career and overly simplistic inquiries directed at Lucy. For her part, Lucy maintained the conversation with cheerful obliviousness, sharing stories about school, her stuffed animals, and the pancakes Nathan had learned to make. "So, you work in hotel maintenance?" Bradley asked Jack during a lull. "Interesting career choice." "It pays the bills," Jack replied evenly. "Flexible hours, good benefits. Important when you're a single parent." "And how exactly did you and Nathan become so close?" The emphasis on the last word carried clear insinuations. "Lucy offered me a tissue when I was having a bad day," Nathan interjected, his tone leaving no room for further questions. Sometimes the most meaningful connections start with the simplest acts of kindness. Bradley's skepticism was palpable. "How touching. And now you're what, playing house with them? Nathan, you've built a global technology empire. You have responsibilities to your shareholders, your employees, your legacy." "I'm still meeting those responsibilities," Nathan said firmly. "But I've discovered there's more to life than quarterly reports and stock prices." "Clearly," Bradley said dryly. He turned his attention to Lucy, his tone shifting to artificial sweetness. "Lucy, do you like presents? I bet Nathan gives you lots of nice gifts." Lucy, fork halfway to her mouth, looked confused. "Nathan reads me stories and makes pancakes. Oh, and he won me a penguin at the school fair." "No expensive toys, no shopping sprees." Jack's expression hardened. "If you're implying what I think you're implying, I'm simply trying to understand the nature of this arrangement," Bradley cut in smoothly. "My cousin has amassed considerable wealth. It would be natural for people to be attracted to that." "That's enough," Nathan said, his voice quiet but steely. "Lucy, sweetheart, would you like to show Mr. Hopperty the view from the balcony? The door is unlocked." Lucy, sensing the adult tension but not understanding its source, nodded and collected her stuffed rabbit before heading to the balcony. Once she was out of earshot, Nathan turned to his cousin. "Let me be absolutely clear, Bradley. Jack and Lucy are in my life because they bring me joy, purpose, and genuine connection, things my wealth never provided. Jack has repeatedly refused financial assistance beyond what I've essentially forced on him. He works double shifts, lives modestly, and puts his daughter first in every decision. People can be very patient when the potential payoff is in the billions," Bradley countered. "Very convincing, too." Jack stood abruptly. "I don't need to sit here and be accused of—" "Sit down, Jack," Nathan said gently. "Please." After a moment's hesitation, Jack complied, though tension radiated from every line of his body. "Bradley," Nathan continued, "I understand your concerns from a certain perspective. If I were in your position, seeing only the surface of this situation, I might have similar questions. So let me address them directly. Yes, I've updated my will to provide for Jack and Lucy. No, they didn't ask me to. The provisions I've made are significant but reasonable. Education for Lucy, housing security, some investment income. The bulk of my estate will still go to the charitable foundation as originally planned, with the technology patents and company shares distributed as outlined in the succession plan." "And what about the family legacy?" Bradley demanded. "The Reed name?" Nathan's laugh held no humor. "The Reed legacy consists of you and me, Bradley, two cousins who exchange Christmas cards and occasional business favors. You've never shown interest in a family connection before. Don't pretend my diagnosis has suddenly awakened deep familial bonds." Bradley's facade cracked slightly, revealing the calculation beneath. "You're being manipulated, Nathan, in your condition. With the stress of your diagnosis, you're vulnerable to this kind of emotional exploitation. This maintenance worker and his daughter show up at exactly the right moment, offer a little kindness, and suddenly they're family. Can't you see how this looks?" "I don't care how it looks," Nathan replied calmly. "I care how it feels, and what I feel with Jack and Lucy is real, genuine connection. Something I suspect you've rarely experienced, Bradley." Bradley's expression hardened. "Fine. Play house with your ready-made family while you can. But don't expect me to stand by while you dismantle everything you've built. The board will hear about this, and they won't be as understanding as I've tried to be." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check." Bradley stood, straightening his designer sweater. "You're not thinking clearly, Nathan, and as family, your only actual blood relative, I have a responsibility to protect you even from yourself." "I think you should leave," Nathan said quietly. Bradley glanced toward the balcony where Lucy was pointing something out to her stuffed rabbit, her small face animated with childlike wonder. "She seems like a sweet kid. It would be a shame if this situation became messy enough to affect her." The thinly veiled threat sent a cold shiver through Nathan. Before he could respond, Jack spoke, his voice controlled but tense. "Mr. Reed, I understand your concerns for your cousin, but involving Lucy in any kind of legal or public dispute would cross a line. She's an innocent child who's already experienced significant loss in her life." Bradley regarded Jack with cold assessment. "Then perhaps you should consider what's truly best for her. And for Nathan." With that parting shot, he made his way to the elevator without another word. As the elevator doors closed, Jack exhaled slowly. That went about as well as expected. Nathan moved to the window, watching as Bradley emerged from the building below and slid into a waiting town car. He's going to be a problem. "What can he actually do?" Jack asked, joining him at the window. "Legally? Not much, but he has connections, influence. He could push for a competency hearing, claim I'm making decisions under duress or diminished capacity. It probably wouldn't hold up, but it would create delays, complications, and publicity," Jack added quietly, "which would affect Lucy." Nathan turned to face him, concern evident in his expression. "Jack, if you want to step back from this, I would understand. The last thing I want is to cause problems for you and Lucy." Jack studied him for a long moment. "Is that what you want? For us to step back?" "No," Nathan admitted. "The thought of losing you both now—" He couldn't finish the sentence, the emotion too raw. Jack's expression softened. "Then we'll figure it out together." On the balcony, Lucy was still chattering happily to Mr. Hopperty, pointing out boats on the bay and birds wheeling against the clear blue sky. Her innocence and joy were a stark contrast to the tension that had filled the apartment moments before. "I should start the clinical trial," Nathan said suddenly. "The experimental treatment Dr. Levine mentioned." Jack looked at him questioningly. "Are you sure? You seemed hesitant before." "I need more time," Nathan explained simply. "To set things up properly, make sure you and Lucy are protected, and—" He hesitated. "I'm not ready to say goodbye yet." Jack's eyes glistened with unspoken emotion. "Neither are we." The experimental treatment began the following week, an aggressive regimen of targeted immunotherapy combined with modified chemotherapy. The side effects were as brutal as Dr. Levine had warned: extreme fatigue, nausea, neurological symptoms that left Nathan's hands trembling and occasionally affected his speech. Despite his determination to maintain normalcy, Nathan's involvement in Jack and Lucy's daily routine necessarily diminished. Some days he was too sick to leave his bed. On others, the risk of infection due to his compromised immune system made public outings impossible. Jack and Lucy adapted, bringing their routine to Nathan instead. Jack would pick Lucy up from school and bring her to the penthouse, where they would do homework at Nathan's bedside, or watch movies together in the master suite's sitting area. On Nathan's better days, they would cook dinner in his rarely used kitchen, filling the sterile luxury apartment with the warmth and chaos of family life. One evening, as Jack prepared a simple pasta dish that Nathan's sensitive stomach could tolerate, Lucy curled up beside Nathan on the sofa, her school backpack open on the coffee table. "I need to write about my family for school," she announced, pulling out a worksheet. "Ms. Chen says we can write about any kind of family." Nathan nodded, helping her smooth the paper on her notebook. "That sounds like an interesting assignment." "I'm going to write about having two dads," Lucy declared confidently. "One dad who lives with me and one dad who lives here with the big windows. Is that okay?" The innocent question caught Nathan off guard. He glanced toward the kitchen, where Jack had paused in his cooking, clearly listening for his response. "I think," Nathan said carefully, "that would be wonderful. If your dad agrees." Jack met his gaze across the room, a complex mixture of emotions playing across his features. After a moment, he nodded. "If that's how you see our family, Lucy, then that's what you should write." Lucy beamed, immediately beginning to write with the determined concentration of a 5-year-old. "I need to draw my family too. Can I draw you without hair? Ms. Chen says we should be accurate." Nathan laughed, running a hand over his now bald head, another side effect of the treatment. "Absolutely, very accurate." That night, after Lucy had fallen asleep in the guest room that had gradually accumulated her books, toys, and a nightlight shaped like a jellyfish, Jack and Nathan sat in the kitchen, sharing a rare glass of wine. "She called me her dad," Nathan said quietly, still processing the moment. "I didn't expect—" "Are you okay with it?" Jack asked. "It's a big step." Nathan nodded, emotion making speech difficult. "More than okay, I just wish—" "I know. Jack said softly. I wish that too. The unspoken reality hung between them, the timeline that shadowed every moment, every milestone. Dr. Levine had been cautiously optimistic about the treatment's initial effects, but realistic about its limitations. The cancer might be slowed, even temporarily halted, but cure remained an elusive hope. I've been thinking, Nathan said after a moment, about making it official, becoming Lucy's legal guardian, alongside you. Jack's eyebrows rose in surprise. Nathan, that's too much? Nathan asked, suddenly uncertain. I don't want to overstep. No, Jack said quickly, not too much. Just complicated. Legally, medically. He hesitated. Are you sure you want to take that on, with everything else you're dealing with? I've never been more sure of anything, Nathan replied with quiet conviction. I want whatever time I have left to count, Jack, to matter. Being Lucy's guardian officially, legally would matter. Jack nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. It would protect her, too. Your status, your resources. If anything happened to me, she'd have security. Exactly, Nathan agreed. Though nothing is happening to you anytime soon, if I have anything to say about it. Jack smiled, though sadness lingered in his eyes. Let's talk to a family lawyer, see what's involved. But if this is what you want, what we all want, then yes, let's make it official. They clinked glasses gently, sealing a decision that would alter all their lives. Neither man mentioned the complication they both recognized, Bradley's likely reaction to such a significant step, and the potential fallout that might follow. Some battles, they silently agreed, were worth fighting regardless of the cost. The guardianship petition was filed discreetly through Helena Grayson's office, with all parties hoping to avoid media attention. Nathan's deteriorating health lent urgency to the process, and Helena leveraged her considerable influence to expedite the legal proceedings. A family court judge agreed to hear the case privately, sensitive to the high-profile nature of the parties involved and the welfare of the child at the center of the petition. What they hadn't anticipated was Bradley's vigilance. Somehow, possibly through contacts in the legal community, he learned of the petition within days of its filing. His response was swift and calculated, a counter-filing questioning Nathan's competency and Jack's motives, along with a request for a temporary injunction halting any changes to Nathan's legal arrangements until a full competency evaluation could be completed. He's claiming I'm mentally impaired by my illness and medication, Nathan said incredulously, reading the legal documents Helena had reluctantly delivered. And that Jack is manipulating me for financial gain. Helena nodded grimly. It's a standard play in these situations. Delay, create doubt, force a lengthy legal process that could outlast... She paused, realizing the implication of her words. That could outlast me, Nathan finished for her. Bradley's betting that if he drags this out long enough, I won't be around to fight him. Essentially, yes. Helena adjusted her glasses, her expression professional but sympathetic. The good news is that Judge Ramsey seems disinclined to grant the temporary injunction. She's requesting a hearing with all parties present before making any decisions. Nathan sighed, rubbing his temples where a persistent headache had taken residence, another side effect of his treatment. When? Next Thursday, 10 a.m. I'll be there, Nathan said firmly, though they both knew it wasn't that simple. His good days were becoming less predictable, the treatment's side effects more debilitating, but this hearing was too important to miss, regardless of how he felt. Jack took the news of Bradley's counterfiling with characteristic calm, though Nathan could see the worry beneath his composed exterior. We knew he might try something like this, Jack said as they sat on the balcony of Nathan's penthouse, watching the sunset paint the bay in shades of gold and crimson. Lucy was inside, engaged in an elaborate game involving her stuffed animals and several of Nathan's decorative pillows. I didn't think he'd go this far, Nathan admitted. Challenging my mental competency is a serious allegation. If the court orders a psychological evaluation, it could delay everything by months. Jack was quiet for a moment, watching his daughter through the glass doors. Maybe we should wait, he said finally. The guardianship, I mean. It's not like Lucy and I are going anywhere. We can revisit it when you're feeling stronger, when Bradley has moved on to something else. Nathan shook his head firmly. No, that's exactly what Bradley wants. Delay until it's too late. I need to know this is settled, Jack. I need to know you and Lucy are legally protected. We'll be okay, Nathan, even without the legal guardianship. I know you would. But this isn't just about practical protection, it's about... Nathan struggled to articulate the complex emotions driving his determination. It's about acknowledging what we've become to each other, making it real in every way possible. Jack's expression softened. It's already real, papers or no papers. Then let's make it official, Nathan insisted. I'll be at that hearing if I have to drag myself there on my hands and knees. The night before the hearing, disaster struck. Lucy, who had been fighting a mild cold for several days, suddenly spiked a high fever. By midnight, her temperature had reached 103.8, and she was lethargic and disoriented. "We need to take her to the emergency room," Jack said, his usual composure cracking as he felt his daughter's burning forehead. This isn't normal. Nathan, who had been staying at the Mitchells' apartment to avoid the press that had begun to gather outside his building, following news leaks about the guardianship petition, immediately called his driver. "Children's Hospital is 20 minutes away," he said, already grabbing his coat. "The car will be downstairs in 5. The pediatric emergency room was crowded despite the late hour, filled with anxious parents and feverish crying children. Jack carried Lucy to the reception desk, her small body limp against his chest, her curls damp with sweat. "My daughter has a fever of nearly 104, he explained to the triage nurse. "It came on suddenly and she's not responding normally." The nurse nodded efficiently, asking a series of rapid questions about Lucy's symptoms and medical history. Nathan stood beside them, his own health concerns momentarily forgotten in the face of Lucy's distress. "We'll need to register her and then a doctor will see her as soon as possible," the nurse explained, handing Jack a clipboard with forms. "Current wait time is approximately 2 hours for non-critical cases." "2 hours?" Nathan interjected, alarm evident in his voice. "She's burning up. She needs to be seen now." The nurse's expression remained professionally neutral. "I understand your concern, sir, but we triage based on medical necessity. There are several critical cases ahead of you." Jack placed a calming hand on Nathan's arm. "It's okay. We'll wait our turn." But as they settled into the uncomfortable waiting room chairs, Lucy's condition seemed to worsen. Her breathing became more labored, and when she briefly opened her eyes, she seemed confused and didn't recognize Jack. "Something's really wrong," Jack said, real fear creeping into his voice. "Nathan, I've never seen her like this." Nathan felt a surge of protective determination. Without a word, he walked back to the triage desk, pulling out his phone as he went. 2 quick calls, one to his oncologist, Dr. Levine, and another to the hospital's chief of pediatrics, whose contact information Helena had once provided just in case, changed everything. Within 10 minutes, a different nurse appeared in the waiting room. "Mitchell family, we can take Lucy back now." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Lucy was diagnosed with severe pneumonia, the infection having progressed rapidly due to her initially mild symptoms. She was admitted to the pediatric ward, placed on IV antibiotics, and given oxygen to help her labored breathing. "We caught it in time," the attending physician assured Jack and Nathan around 3 a.m.